Too often, looking at these big numbers, we lose sight of small numbers that are absolutely crucial. A GDP growth of 5% or 6% may look good if it is in one niche corner of the economy. You might actually have the vast majority of the population getting much poorer while GDP is growing.
The prospects for achieving an inclusive Nigerian and African financial market and regional economy was the focus of the robust conversations at the 7th edition of the African International Conference on Islamic Finance. The two-day event commenced with a plenary session that featured keynote speeches from the convener, Ummahani Amin, His Royal Highness Dr. Muhammad Sanusi II, Emir of Kano, Mr. Samaila Zubairu, the CEO of Africa Finance Corporation, Dr. Tope Fasua, Senior Special Assistant on Economic Matters, representing the Vice President, and Dr. Emomotimi Agama, Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we begin this two-day journey, let us remember that Islamic finance is more than a financial system. It is a philosophy rooted in fairness, equity, and shared prosperity. It calls us to build societies where no one is left behind, where capital serves humanity, and where finance becomes a tool for justice, not exclusion. Africa is standing in the threshold of profound opportunity. The decision we make, the partnerships we forge, and the ideas we nurture here at AICIF 2025 can shape not just markets, but lives, not just economies, but futures. We hope that when we leave this conference, we go with renewed determination, not only to discuss solutions, but to build them, not only to envision progress, but to drive it. Together, let us champion a continent with prosperity, shared where inclusion is intentional, and where Islamic finance becomes a transformative force for development.
Too often, looking at these big numbers, we lose sight of small numbers that are absolutely crucial. A GDP growth of 5% or 6% may look good if it is in one niche corner of the economy. You might actually have the vast majority of the population getting much poorer while GDP is growing. Inflation numbers may come down, but the items consumed by the poor, such as basic drugs and basic food, might be getting out of reach of the poor. So the first thing is, if we are dealing with inclusivity, and this is where Islamic finance needs to come in and go back to the basics. Islamic financial institutions need to go to the bottom of the pyramid. You cannot talk about inclusivity if you are not where the people are. You sit in Lagos and sit in Abuja and you book loans. Those loans do not improve the livelihood of the people in the rural areas, in the small towns, and these are the tens of millions of Nigerians who actually need support. The mechanic, the small restaurant owner, the seamstress with her fashion design shop, these small and medium enterprises that employ 70% of our population. And until we begin to grow those, we are not going to have the growth that is inclusive. We can continue having a rapid GDP growth, and it's all in financial services, it's in information technology, it's in oil and gas, not likely to spread to the bottom. So my first suggestion to all the Islamic finance institutions here is, let's try and strategically target small and medium enterprises in locations that already do not have access to finance. And there we can do very good business, musharaka, mudaraba, ijara. And yes, it is more difficult. It means we have to stretch ourselves out widely. And then that is the only way Islamic finance can contribute to shared prosperity.
Let's not forget what it's really about. Islamic finance builds roads. It connects not just cities, it connects lives. It finances power, it lights up homes, schools, and dreams. When it expands, broadband, it allows a window to the world for every young African. Each project becomes both physical infrastructure and social infrastructure, a bridge from potential to prosperity. The time is now, distinguished guests. Africa stands at the threshold of history. Our youth are ready, our resources are abundant, our faith is unshakable. To governments, let's create enabling frameworks for public-private partnerships and Sharia governance. To financial institutions, let's innovate beyond convention, blend Sharia with sustainability, and find ways to reach the bottom of the pyramids. Let's find ways to create funds. Let's find ways to create digital platforms that can connect to the average person.
As we look inward, we must also look upward. Africa's capital reserves, our pension funds, sovereign wealth, and insurance pools hold trillions in potential investment. If mobilized effectively, they can finance our growth from within. Through innovations such as Green Sukuk and diaspora bonds, we can finance our future in a shared narrative of progress, whether through microfinance for women entrepreneurs, full coverage for farmers, or work-funded clinics in rural communities. We can give practical meaning to inclusion. Distinguished delegates, I appeal to each of you to draw strength from our shared faith in the future. Let us build an Africa where enterprise and empathy coexist, where finance is not a privilege for the few, but a promise for the many, and where every child, whether in Lagos or Lusaka, Nairobi or Niamey, finds a stake in the continent's tomorrow.
The dedication in the advancement of Islamic finance industry in Nigeria over the past 14 years has been tremendous, and we can all see the result. The taste of the pudding is actually in its eating. This was instrumental in bringing this important event to fruition. Our gathering today in this biennial event is a testament to the power of collaboration. And indeed, I dare say that we had actually planned such an event with AOFI. We'll still do it in the year 2026, and we know clearly that the support from the OIC and AOFI in this regard is continuing to grow. We know clearly that such cooperation and collaboration will indeed bring new tidings even into our market. So indeed, I want to say, I thank our distinguished speakers and all participants for being part of this event today. I thank those that were here yesterday that are not able to come today. I thank those that will join us even in this crusade for the future. I thank the team at the SEC for getting ready for a new year 2026 that will be filled with challenges, but yet will be filled with new innovations and, of course, indeed, prosperity for Africa.
Lively panel sessions designed to broaden insight into the Islamic finance ecosystem through the 2-day period of the conference provided an opportunity for stakeholders, policymakers, regulators, scholars, markets leaders, and ethical-minded investors to explore ways of leveraging Islamic finance and the product offerings to unlock inclusive growth, deepen financial inclusion, and mobilize capital for a sustainable Nigerian economy. Major stakeholders speak on the theme of the conference and the pathway for Islamic finance and the transformation of Nigeria and Africa's economic landscape.
Look, this is a problem across Africa. If you're looking at the poverty numbers, you've got to do something about it. Otherwise, you can actually have African countries growing very fast while poverty continues to multiply. Until we structure our economic policies, our structural policies. But if you can have the structural policies, but you need to have finance into those structural policies. Okay, so for example, you've got adjustments in the power sector. If you don't go and set up solar plants and renewable energy in the rural areas, you don't create the opportunity for rural people to set up SMEs. But if you can get electricity there, and then you can get finance there, then you can get people to do business there, and can get people to begin to earn and come out of poverty. And if you do that, and one thing I must say, this government is trying to have a national plan now where they start in with all the wards in the country. Now, that is a beginning. We understand the peculiarities of every economy, of every segment, and then we now know what kind of innovations we want to have. And that's why I think banks like investment banks, who are basically looking for investment opportunities, need to have that information, need to have that data, and need to go into it. My hope is that as more and more banks come in and they succeed, then you're going to have people ready to risk more capital. And after some years, I imagine these banks should go to the capital market, should be able to show a track record of returns, should be able to grow, and should be able to become medium-sized, large-sized banks over time.
Finance is required for development, and all forms of finance, are helpful for development. Islamic finance, in particular, is very good for real asset finance, and it's a form of partnership. And once that is established, it's possible for us to scale that. Especially because we have done research that shows that within Africa is extensive capital pools of over $4 trillion, especially within the pension systems, insurance funds, sovereign wealth funds, and the reserves. So Islamic finance is going to be a good way for intermediation, and what we also found out is that there's a huge informal sector that's yet to be captured. With digital, you can capture a lot of the informal sector. And once that is captured, you see that there's a lot of Islamic finance in that space, and that can be channeled towards development.
Well, one of the cardinal aims of the SEC, and especially from the backdrop of the Capital Market Master Plan 2015 to 2025, is to actually increase product offerings. And, it is very, very important to note that about demography and about religional connotations, the Muslim faith constitutes about 50% of the population of Nigerians. And for an inclusive capital market, it is necessary that our Muslim brothers and sisters have an opportunity to invest in the market like any other person. So having to do this is actually, an ability to draw capital from this space into the capital market and to drive development. And we have seen that happening and also progressively happening. Like we all understand, we've had over 1.6 trillion naira in capital flowing from that region because of this initiative. That is just a tip of the iceberg. So it is important that we leap on that progress, on that positivity to relaunch Nigeria into the space of drawing capital from this region and this faith. And that is very, very critical. Besides the faith, in generality, people are interested in doing things that has to do with positivity, has to do with things that are not halal, as it were, things that are not forbidden, as it were, things that are ethical, as it were. And so, in driving that space within our capital market region, it is important that we focus on it. We're intentional about it. Why? Because we want development all around.
From an insightful, engaging, enlightening, and highly informative two-day conference, the key takeaway is the need for alignment between policies, regulations, and structures to build a robust Islamic finance ecosystem to support the growth of a vibrant capital market and an inclusive economy in Nigeria and Africa as a region.